This video brought to you by Manscaped. Right now 20% off with code FILMENTO.
There's nothing left. I told you there is nothing left. I want you gone tomorrow.
Watching A Quiet Place Part 2 for me overall was a very positive experience because it reaffirmed my belief that no matter how talented or hot off a successful movie a director might be, they still need writers in order to survive. See, the first Quiet Place was originally written by these two up-and-coming writers who somehow managed to create what might very well be the boldest, most innovative original movie concept of the decade, which understandably then went through some changes down the line, some of which I've already discussed my unenthusiasm for, to the extent that the director as well got a smaller writing credit underneath the original writers. And that joint effort of making the movie led to a pretty great result. Well, this time Paramount along with the director thought it was okay for them to abandon that joint effort and go ahead and make a sequel without the original writers who create the whole thing being involved in any capacity, leading to a result that is just as you'd expect. Overall, A Quiet Place Part 2 is one of the worst written monster horror movie sequels of all time, to the point where they'll need an actual miracle for this franchise to be able to ever recover. I know the title of the video hints at a few terrible seconds like was the case last time, which is definitely part of it that we'll get to, but sadly it's not the whole truth, because in truth this entire 90-minute movie is one continuous downhill that spits in the face of the original as it continuously destroys what made the original what it was, which makes me feel so bad for the original writers because what they created truly was something special. But hey, not only is it Hollywood, but also the worst studio in Hollywood, so what do you expect?
Serious?
So today, to actually back up these crazy words coming out of my mouth, because apparently this movie was very successful and well liked, let's take a look at A Quiet Place Part 2 with the angle of it being a part 2 to an original monster flick and how it ruins the whole thing. If you want to make a sequel to a monster horror suspense movie, especially with the intention of doing it without the original writers, here's a couple things to consider. The first monster sequel crime A Quiet Place Part 2 commits is making a mockery of the main source of horror and suspense that the whole idea it was for it to be built on. See, the reason monster horror movie sequels are some of the most difficult films to make is because most often the originals end in the monster having some kind of weakness that gets exploited to defeat it, as was also the case here with this feedback noise that makes the sound-hunting creatures vulnerable, which kinda by default takes away the incentive to fear them. And coming into part 2, that same feedback noise weakness is still very present. A few minutes into this new story, our hero family have left their farm in search of another home base when they suddenly make a noisy oopsie, resulting in them then having to once again try what they did at the end of the first movie, quite successfully so. And so essentially, before this film has even fully begun, it already showcases that yes, not only is the creature weakness still there, it's also so massive that it can be exploited with what so far has been 100% success rate. And the problem this causes is that then what's the point? For example, after the family has killed the first creature, they then hear another one and start running for their lives. And it's like, why? It's the same creature, nothing about it is different from the previous one, so why don't they just repeat what has always previously worked? Just immobilize it with the noise and kill it with a single shot. Because it's pretty much impossible for the audience to feel any real fear or tension or anything else when they're stuck on the confusion of why is any of this happening in the first place. And the issue going forward is that the movie never even tries to patch up this weakness or evolve the creatures in order to reconstruct their inherent danger that this whole world was created to be built on. It just says it and lets them turn into actual clowns. This time the creatures are so cluelessly deaf that they can't pinpoint the location of people talking and running right in their vicinity. This time they're so laughably weak that they can be killed by a little girl swinging a light aluminum pole. I mean, even when we get to a new, never-before-seen setting that presents a perfect opportunity to evolve the creatures into something more dangerous, no. In other words, these incredibly innovative and inherently threatening movie monsters created by these two up-and-comers are now reduced to and left on such a ridiculously low level that our heroes are less in danger in this fictional world overrun by them than they would be in the real one we all live in right now. And if you look at a movie like Aliens, for example, you can see that the filmmakers there didn't just let the earlier work sink down, but instead put in the effort to lift it up. Not only did they increase the overall difficulty by forcing the heroes to face multiple aliens at the same time, they also evolved the conception of what the aliens are by introducing the Queen Mother that ranks above all others in threat and danger. And that's what you do in a film like this. You either reduce the hero's ability to exploit the creature's weakness, or you evolve the creatures to the point where that same weakness is no longer there. Because if you have a monster movie where the heroes from the very beginning are equipped with a foolproof way to survive the monster unless they act like total morons, which we'll get to soon enough, what is the point? Don't just make your monster sequel double down on the weaknesses from before. Put in the effort to reconstruct and evolve that original source of fear. The second thing the sequel ruins is the core DNA identity that the original so clearly established, that being a contained story about this family trying to survive a deadly quiet world. And the first thing you'll notice here is that it's not that quiet of a world anymore. Whereas the first movie found a way to tell a story with almost no spoken dialogue at all, the sequel just abandons this to the point where even the deaf girl here might actually have more spoken lines than there were in total in the original. People just talk and talk and talk, whether it's under an arbitrary excuse.
There's 3 feet of concrete. It has to be right above us to hear. Okay.
Or whether there's no excuse at all and the movie just decides that the best way for a character to communicate with a deaf girl is to audibly speak to her.
Listen to me. Stay here till they're gone, and then we go. We'll wait here until they're gone.
And it's not just words. Whereas before the characters were genuinely terrified of sound, here they're comfortable with it enough to casually hum songs without knowing if a creature is close by and run at full speed even with their shoes on, despite knowing for sure that a creature is right there behind them. Oh, while also still speaking along the way. And so altogether, it's not so much a quiet place anymore as it is a place, which is less evolution and more just a whole other thing. Then you have the character aspect, which suffers the same exact fate. Whereas before, the dad was the clear primary hero, with the rest of the family also having agency, like with preparing for the birth of the baby, now that the dad is gone, there by logic is an organic opening for the mom to take the lead. Or even the deaf girl, which might mark the first time a deaf actor has headlined a major Hollywood blockbuster. But of course, no.
You have to find her for me. She's gonna get help, and I need you to go and find her for me and bring her back to me. I'm begging you, we were friends, Emma, please. So please go find her.
Yeah, so just like that, the movie yanks our already established family characters out of the spotlight and instead gives it to this never-before-seen guy. He's the one who leads the way. He's the one who helps the girl forward. Overall, he is the primary hero with most meaningful actions and character development. Meaning that characters like the mom, for example, are left in the background to do nothing of value in the grand scheme of things outside of the movie saying so.
She also goes get more oxygen for the baby's airtight crib, which is another momentary solution to a problem that hasn't yet been shown to be a real problem in their new location.
Adding fresh primary heroes itself can be fine, but it cannot come at the cost of your existing ones falling into the shadows to the point of getting no new meaningful development until maybe the very end, and still with barely any prior build-up. If you want to develop the boy from a coward to a fighter, then actually develop him. Show a scene earlier on where he could help his family by aiming the feedback noise at a creature, but instead runs away in fear, and then at the end place him in the same situation where he could once again run and leave his mom and the baby to the creature, but now having grown throughout the story chooses to fight for them. Because your original heroes can't all play second fiddle to the brand new ones in a sequel that continues their story right where it left off. At that point, why not just tell a brand new story?
I'm begging you, we were friends, Emma. Please go find her.
Maybe the counter-argument for this is the baby, which the mom, for example, had to stay behind to take care of and thus couldn't just go off to become part of the meaningful storyline. But in that case, I do love the irony of the characters just constantly going off to do stuff in spite of the baby anyway.
Where's the baby? Forget the baby! Man! Are you some sick individual that just leaves a baby in distress? Alright, the baby.
As for the location aspect, whereas before the story was contained to this farm and its surroundings, this time the main storyline occurs as a road trip, which is actually a great evolution for variety, but there's still the issue of having both a meaningful road trip storyline as well as a contained storyline with no real larger meaning beyond solving momentary problems caused only by the character's own stupidity. And it's like if Infinity War was able to juggle multiple storylines, all of which carried meaning in the grand scheme of things, maybe you should be able to handle too. And then when it comes to the main purpose of the movie, whereas before the whole point was for this family to find a way to defend itself against the creatures, guess what that overall point is here? The exact same thing.
Corporate needs you to find the differences between this picture and this picture. They're the same picture.
Right, so the ending here consists of our family heroes now having a way to fight the creatures, which not only is the exact same conclusion as in the original, but also something they've had since the very beginning. Like, if you want to serve an actual purpose, then maybe this time have the ending be about the family spreading that tool to fight to the world beyond just themselves. Maybe instead of leaving the mom in a basement to achieve nothing, have her storyline lead to some survivor community where at the end you then show everyone in that community realizing that they can now fight back against the massive horde of creatures that were just about to kill them all. It's better than spending 90 minutes to achieve the same result as before, to the point where there's no point for your sequel to even exist. Another way this film ruins the original is by demolishing its established realism by having events and actions occur regardless of how unmotivated or nonsensical the way they happen might be. Take for example the main plot of the movie where the girl figures out that the Beyond the Sea song playing on the radio is actually a cryptic message coming from this island radio station and then generates a main goal to It's already weird how the movie presents Beyond the Sea as this big brain clue that the girl solves when apparently she just looks up the radio frequency station on the map, which defeats the whole point of the clue angle, but the key issue here is the lack of realistic motive to go on this journey. One half of the girl's reason for going is to save her family, which doesn't make any sense because she's literally taking away her family's only sure way of survival, while the other half is to save the people at the radio station, which again not only is a logical leap because a song having looped on the radio for 4 months doesn't really scream people needing help, but is also emotionally void because why would the girl or the audience care about saving some unknown people they don't even surely know the existence of? If you want to have this radio station road trip plot, you need to earn it. For example, establish through the guy that the nearby town full of survivors is trapped between a horde of creatures and won't last long anymore. Survivors including people you use the prologue to establish to have a close connection with the girl. Now, the girl's journey to the radio station to switch on the feedback noise is built on saving people she knows are in need of saving. Now, there's emotional investment of saving specific people we can care about. Now you have something real, as opposed to going to save a bunch of unknown people people that may or may not be there just because a song plays on the radio. Because it's the same issue again and again where things just occur. We have the island people playing this cryptic song instead of just a simple recording saying that, hey, the creatures can't swim so you should leave the mainland, just so that we can have this quote-unquote mystery.
You heard the song. Figure it out.
My wife could still be alive if you had just said it.
We have the crazy survivors ambushing our heroes at the docks for no established reason other than one throwaway line from before saying that people are just bad now.
People that are left, they've become another kind of people worth saving.
We have the girl enter a crashed train to look for a first aid kit she's never been established to need. We have the guy and girl finally reach the island only to then stop to hang out for a bit so that we can first wait for things to get worse before actually going to the radio station. We have the intercut sequence of the boy finding dark stuff about the guy when he and the girl are being ambushed by the crazy people, which does absolutely nothing because trying to build tension by revealing the guy to have a dark side doesn't work when he's being the victim.
If you want to actually make the stock people build up work, then establish that they killed the guy's wife and now reveal the wife's badly brutalized body to show the horrors that they're capable of.
I mean, goddamn, the entire island finale conflict is built on no kind of motivated action whatsoever, but instead only on this random occurrence of the boat that the creature was standing on just happening to drift over there. But to really see the extent of this problem, look at the sequence where the mom leaves the boy alone to watch over the baby. Instead of just doing that simple task, in the very next scene he's already like hell no and leaves the baby in his airtight crib with almost zero oxygen. I repeat, leaves the baby in his airtight crib with almost zero oxygen and then exits the safety of the basement despite his wounded leg that the mom literally had to go off to find medical supplies for just so that he can look outside. Which then leads to him making noise and luring in the creature, which then leads to him locking himself and the baby in the illogically dangerous airtight furnace, which then leads to him suffocating and straight up stealing the baby's oxygen. And all of this happens only because the movie wants to build this big finale obstacle for the mom to face when she returns. As in, doesn't matter how dumb it is, doesn't matter how dumb it makes the characters act, as long as the movie gets these intense events that the original was so good at organically creating, that's good enough. And it's so sad to see, because that along with the earlier stuff lowers this amazing world and its characters to the kind of depths it's very difficult to imagine them ever coming back from. All of which boils down to two key lessons to take from A Quiet Place Part 2. One, you gotta be really careful and mindful of the stuff when making a horror monster movie sequel. And two, we need to normalize that selling an original movie script only means selling the right to make that one movie, not the copyright to the whole thing. Because there's nothing more demoralizing than seeing a couple up-and-coming writers create one of the greatest concepts of all time just for the studio to then take it from them and run it to the f***ing ground. But since I am beginning to just rant now, I'll let the rest of my meaning be conveyed by the famous words of one very wise man.
I don't ever want to see it again! Ever! I see you do it again, you're gone. Is it understood? If I see it again, you're f***ing.
But before you go, since Paramount will no doubt try to claim all the revenue from this video as they always do, here's a quick sponsor message from Manscaped who are coming out with their new Lawnmower 4.0 body trimmer. I know you want to click off, but listen, I was skeptical of this at first and now after using it can't imagine living without it. This thing is waterproof, wireless, it has LED lights and special skin-safe technology, all of which makes it very easy and safe for you to shave your body and groin area, which you do want to do not only for yourself but also for the day that you might possibly meet a girl, for example. The same performance package also comes with their Weed Whacker nose and ear trimmer, which does exactly that in the exact easy way you want, as well as a couple different magic potions to keep your family jewels fresh and comfortable in your pants all throughout the day. And right now, you'll also get 2 free gifts in form of a high-quality travel bag as well as a pair of comfortable anti-chafing boxers. So if you want to try it out, click the link below and use code FILMENTO to get the Manscaped Performance Package 4.0 for 20% off along with free international shipping. And in any case, thanks for listening.